All right. Well, thanks so much, Andy, for making time, and really excited to be working with you and getting the Experience Design Masterclass over here to Australia. So welcome and thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you so much. I'm
Um,
so excited.
yeah, excellent. And so we wanted to take some time now, just to get a better sense of the masterclass itself and kind of your background as well. So I'd love to first start out with this idea of experience design and how do you define experience design and why do you think it's important, particularly now in 2023?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, experience design is not something new. It's been happening for thousands of years, but really the terminology around it is relatively new. Starting back in Hewlett-Packard Park in San Francisco, and we're really starting to develop some sophisticated and also many different ways of using experience design. So we define experience design as a method for framing experiences with the aim of changing the way that people feel, think, and act. And ultimately, when you change the way that someone feels, thinks, and acts, it's really creating a transformation, a transformational experience. And so that's always sort of we're aiming to create powerful experiences that touch people deeply and matter to them and are meaningful. And that's always the ambition, and it's not that all experiences do that, and not that all experiences should, but the method that we've crafted is specifically around designing experiences that grow people and grow relationships. So that's sort of our perspective on experience design. So if that's the type of experience you're interested in creating, then it's a good method for you.
Excellent. And I'm curious as well, Andy, what drew you actually to experience design in this industry, and then what inspired you to create the actual masterclass as well?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, I've actually always been interested in creating positive change in some way. And so I was very interested in politics. I was going door to door, knocking, working for politicians when I was young. And then I actually got interested in business. And I really saw business as a powerful force of shaping positive change in the world. So I studied business for a while. And then I ended up studying at the KS Pilots. I went through the 3-year education. And a shift happened for me there where I actually met Nathan Shedroff. He's one of the first people from San Francisco that's actually really using the term experience design and giving it, proper building a methodology behind it. And it was just I'll never go back moment. When I saw that, I was like, I do that, I love this. And he really gave me language and methods for what I had already been doing and falling in love with. And the reason I became so interested in experience design is because I saw it as a higher leverage point, and I still do, in terms of creating positive change, in the sense that we as people behave in the way that we're shaped by the experiences that we receive. I like to think of it as sort of a topology, almost, like when you're in like looking at a map, the topology of the experiences that we each experience shapes who we are, right? And so by changing that topology of experiences, we can really change the types of outcomes that we're creating as a society. And so I'm really interested in how do you add more care? How could you bring care as for example, into the systems that we create, and really bring that into specifically, healthcare, education, customer experience, employee experience, right? There's all these experiences that we sort of passively receive every day, but that are rich, have rich potential to be sculpted to create, yeah, better outcomes.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that
Does that-
this idea of bringing in care, and thinking about how to integrate that into more of our interactions. And I'm curious, because people have talked about experience design a lot, and it's
yeah.
gotten a lot of buzz recently, and particularly off kind of the back of design thinking, et cetera. but I'm curious as well because sometimes it can be misunderstood or there are kind of misconceptions about it. Yeah, I'm curious. What are some of the things that you think is misunderstood about experience design?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that one of the things that, is particularly, I've seen particularly a lot lately is that Silicon Valley has obviously been, you know, at the forefront of bringing this design perspective into the world, into the way that we work, human-centered design, design thinking. And there's this sort of like focus, there's this sort of technological determinism that everything needs to have technology as, in order to advance. And I love technology. I think technology is amazing. And yet it's not, there doesn't need to be a technological determinism. And a particular facet, something that happens when there's this sort of technological determinism in how we think of, designing organizations and designing services, is that there's this aim at taking out friction, right? One of the best known design tools is this sort of like, you map out the sort of the pains and the gains, right? That people experience, and you try to take away the pains and you try to increase the gains, right? But a meaningful life is not a life without friction. And so I think there's, one of the, misconceptions is that we can design more meaningful experiences simply by taking away friction. And I don't believe that. I think that sometimes we need to add friction. Um, and the other thing is, one other, common misconception, and this is true for all design, is when it's designed acontextually, when the context is not fully considered. And the human experience is so incredibly different for everyone. So I actually don't believe that you can create an experience. An experience is something that always has to be co-created between between the person that's creating the experience and the user. I couldn't put the feeling in your head of like, hey, Ramon, I want you to feel, you know, uh, like gratitude. I want you to feel that you trust me. Like that, if you're gonna trust me, that has to be a co-creation between the two of us, right? Yeah, so that would be a couple of the things that I feel like are often misunderstood, that that there's this technological determinism, that we need to take friction out of experiences in order to make them more meaningful. And also that if we don't understand the context, right? Like, you can't design like, and that, yeah, yeah, yes. Sorry,
Yeah,
I'm gonna go on
yeah,
another
yeah. That
tangent.
make Yeah. No, no, I'm curious too then, because there's such an interest in this space, right? Because like you said, we have all these experiences on a day-to-day, and more people are really becoming conscious on experiencing these and designing these experiences with more intention. And so there's more training and offerings out there. And I'm curious, how would you kind of think about the Chaos Pilot experience design masterclass as different from those, or what separates the masterclass, what makes it unique?
Yeah, yeah, sure. Well, the Chaos Pilots has 30 years of experience and creating transformative experiential learning. And so, really, just that DNA, there's something people always talk about, sort of like, the culture of the institution. And that culture comes through in the way that we work. So we really work in a very experiential way. We talk about, building, connection before content. We're very much focused on building a positive relational context with which is like the foundation for learning. And we're also very focused on just walking the talk and making the training itself into an emotional experience. So we're really at certain points in the training actually create like highly emotional experiences for the participants as a way of learning, right? And high emotional arousal is connected with like long-term memory. So oftentimes we remember the things that created high emotions for us. And that's so that's definitely something that we do in the training. And yeah, it's also a lot of fun. We really focus on building, on rapid prototyping, and on this like teamwork and making things together. So
That's
yeah.
great. And one of the things I've seen that you have such a diverse group of people that are attracted to it. Yeah, what's the kind of person that's typically attracted to attending?
Yeah, well, we do really get a diverse group of people. It's people that are interested in sculpting those experiences that are really important when people come together. So it's, people that are responsible for, employee experience. We get a lot of people that sort of run their own companies or agencies. People that are really responsible for strategic customer experience direction as well. How do you set, how do you set the foundation for building, meaningful customer experiences, in a structured, replicatable way? How do you also drive innovation in the experience space? So we've also been working with actually governments as well. So we've had people from the Dutch police force, for example, been working with the Finnish innovation department, the Colombian innovation department, and also big companies as well. Obviously, we've worked with Lego and Nike, Adidas, da da da. And they're in these teams that are really interested and responsible for innovative customer experience or innovative employee experience. And specifically, looking at where the types of experiences that need to be powerful, that need to be meaningful, that need to last. Yeah. Does
Excellent.
that does that
That's
answer?
yeah, that exactly right. Yeah, thank you for that. And then I'm curious to, because in the actual experience, they'll have an opportunity. My understanding is to work on real projects. And so can you give an example of the types of projects people bring to the experience?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, if I think of this training that I delivered recently in Brazil, we had a group that was working on, yeah, designing an app for mental health, actually. So this was sort of like, the focus. And then we had a group that was designing the onboarding experience for a really fast growing company. How could they do that in sort of a very, both have it be physical, hybrid way, physical and online. And then we also worked with large training that was happening at the UN, for 200 people, and really designing that experience. How could that it was the leader of that whole department at the UN, and how could that training be really meaningful and really be a moment of change in the culture at the UN. And we also had a woman that was running a very sort of sensitive, important meeting for AstraZeneca as well. So yeah, those are some of the different cases that we worked with in that specific training. And of course, we've worked with many others as well. So
Yeah,
yeah.
excellent. Great. And one thing too, I'm curious because you've now run this in so many countries around the world, and you've had so much experience with different kinds of projects. And when you designed this the very first time, compared to where it is now, when you think about the evolution of the program, is there anything that you would see as surprising or some kind of unintended consequence now of having done these experiences when what do you see as kind of a benefit of it?
Yeah, yeah, sure. I had to think about that question. Mm. So some of the unintended consequences, or yeah, I mean, I think one thing that has I've seen a couple times is that people have started new businesses. We've also had people that have met each other through the training, and from that connection actually stayed in contact and ended up forming a business together. So that's pretty cool to see stuff like that happening. And you know, yeah, I don't know, like your question. I don't know if this is like something we want to share, but it also, like, I have seen a cultural shift just in the last couple years, because we do take a risk as educators in the way that we run the training. And I have observed that that has become more difficult for participants in the last couple of years. That And I don't know if that is sort of, this like conditioning of like this frictionless life from, our the technological, what we design designs us. I don't know exactly where it comes from, shifting in culture. And yeah, I
Mm,
don't know if I want to use that, but that's
that's
been,
interesting.
int-
Yeah, it's really
yeah, yeah.
interesting. And then, what would what's one thing that you would say to somebody who's considering coming along to the program?
Just, just enjoy the ride. It's a really enjoyable experience, and we really want to make sure that you come in with the right mindset. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate. We love to sort of talk to you about, your context and making sure that it's a good fit for you before you join.
And then anything else that you wanted to add, or anything else that we didn't get a chance to talk about or
Hmm.
touch
Yeah.
on?
Hmm. Well, I could just say that I really believe that this work is important. I really believe that there is a potential to consciously change the way that, the experience of sort of an education system is designed, that would have enormous effects on, how our children grow up and thrive. And there's a real need now. There's a crisis of, people are feeling lonely. There's a this sense of, yeah, meaninglessness. There's this disengagement at work, and we do know, we have very solid science that can point us in the direction of what types of experiences are more meaningful for people. How do we increase the autonomy and the experiences that we design? How do we increase a sense of meaning and purpose? How do we give people, flow, these types of things that we know are very well scientifically validated to support well-being. So I really believe that it's important work, and yeah, it's exciting. It's an exciting time to be an experience designer.
Excellent.
So
Well, thanks so much,
yeah,
Andy. Really appreciate it, and look forward to
yes,
working with you on this.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Cool.
Thanks, Ramon.
So, yeah, no worries.